First of all, how is Telsem Art relevant in the modern art history of Ethiopia?
My name is Geta Mekonen. The Telsem Art, which is the art of healing in Ethiopia, has been, according to the Ethiopian, experts in the area, one of the earliest and the ancient practices, and from the experts I talked to, they claim it to be as God has given this knowledge and this communication to humans, so as early as Adam and Eve. That's the traditional claim. It's very interesting. I mean, it's a myth, a legend. Take it whichever way you want, but it has a source and a root, which is absolutely fascinating to me. And this thing existed and is still practiced, but it is a very discreet, and it's not an open kind of art. And the first people who turned it into an open piece of art that can go into a wall as Geta Mekonen and Geramawi Anacho. And now Henok Malkamza is also going that way, and even more, he's taking it to the next level. So, and for that one step, there was a role of Jacques Mercier, the anthropologist, and now he supported these people to evolve that practice into a modern kind of art and make it open, plus providing them all the materials and the things they needed, and also giving them the exposure they deserve and they need outside of the country, because locally they didn't have much role at the time, because they don't fall into anything we knew, and also because there's the fear of that form of art in general, because it's being practiced as a medicinal art, and it is crafted to a specific user, for whatever is the need that art is being made. It was not an art in such, as such, to be precise, because it was more of like a healing medicinal art, So the people would do it for a specific purpose, would design for a specific person, and it was very hidden and very discreet. It's rolled, 3-4 times, and even the wearer would not know what's given to him, because just like a doctor would give you a medicine and tell you to swallow it, and that's all. You wouldn't know what's in it. It's in the same way. It was a completely hidden material, a hidden information, subscribed by a knowledgeable person. So that was the role, and you're not supposed to look at it. And if you go to the Anthropology Museum at Addis Ababa University and try to look at some of the old scrolls in the old days, they'll tell you not to do, because nobody would take that responsibility for you to open some of these things, because they were not supposed to be open. Because what is being subscribed to me and what's the power that's embedded into that image may not be friendly to you. That's the belief. So, and they do believe in it, and I have no reason not to believe it. For me, because there's so many things we don't know, and I can't pretend to know these things, and I can't pretend to disprove it. But as a learner, and I was curious, and I befriended these two people, and especially Gideon at the time, and I was trying to learn from him. It's a very interesting man, the way he describes these things. So basically what he did was that specific medicinal art he would craft to someone. At the end of the day, it would fall into one category of medicine, either to heal you from bodily pains or psychological pains or whatever, all other needs you have. So a design would be produced to work for someone that can connect, And it's interesting because he would do something like your body or your mind would know what you need, and we do. I mean, but from that, what I noticed, the way he would describe the work is very profound. It's in the way, like for me, like there's a concept, a very profound concept, like about lines, about colors, about shapes. But at the same time, the different thing about this type of art, like from what I learned, is all the symbols are already predetermined, prefixed. Like a line like this means this, a line like that means this, and this and two together means that. So there's a formula to it, like a prescription. But the way he would assemble them, and the way he interpreted those concepts into a line or an art, is very interesting for me, at the time. And I wish he stayed long enough. We documented it. We could have. But I'm glad I had those conversations with him, honestly, because, for instance, line a line, just a single line, is an intellectual creation. It's a human creation. Lines do not exist in nature, because nature has dimensions. Like at the end of the day, line is the definitive kind of creation of humanity, So, and then from line, everything came. And with this, he had the same idea. And I had this idea, like, and I don't know, from reading, from exploring, from thinking, I was getting this place, in my own, way. And I never communicated it. And then, like, we're talking, and he was talking about line in the same way. And I was honestly amazed and shocked. Like, So that really surprised me at the time, because, his understanding of, and profound understanding of line is just, like, it's timeless, It's very profound, it's very modern, and I'm like, it really explained it. He said, line is a creation, and we agreed on this, So humans created, but God gave this to humans, So with that, they can put these things and these things to mean something, because with line, I can put a symbol and a Z, and then it becomes L, and then O, and then there's like a different kind of sign, and then it becomes love. So the line by itself has nothing, but these 2, 3, 4 lines become and say something, So they communicated. So they embedded, a message is embedded into these lines, like formed in different ways. And basically this is art for him. And then this is where the art comes from. This is where, when the power is given to us to understand it this way. And with this is like, that's communication, because but this communication is actually like, their communication is between, the seen, the visible world and the invisible world, and these feelings and ideas are interpreted into these lines, and and you're empowered. But in those days, in the times he's talking about, not everybody's literate. So this power is given to very few people. Very few people can understand reading and writing. Especially in our tradition, if you go back even like 200-300 years, the knowledge is only kept into the church or the mosque. Like few people who can read and write, and few people, those people, even for the king, they advise us to the king, and then anything, any knowledge is like transferred through those few people, and not everybody is literate, not everybody can read, and
Telsem Art is even beyond that.
Beyond that, that's the depths of that. Yeah. It's not just even the next layer of abstraction, yes. The next layer of kind of profound communication, with the seen and unseen, Yeah. Once that's one step lower, it becomes a writing, and then more people can read it, But for them, beyond, like, it's above and beyond that.
Yes.
You know? That communication is like a lot more abstract, a lot more profound, and select few people can do it.
Yeah,
can
because,
communicate.
you know, with symbols, with this, with lines beginning,
Yeah.
you know, with and
Yeah.
of course visually when you see Telsem, there are very intricate lines intertwined with one another, with symbols, with vines, with colors and so on. So it's the level of sophistication of Telsem
Yes.
is even like
Yes, it is. It's a different
even
level.
a little bit more than what the art, you know, maybe what the plastic.
I mean, like, it's very
refer.
difficult to call it art. That's why I say, like, you know, it is an art form, but it's for me, it's a very superior art form.
Okay.
Like, I can't deny it. Even though it is transcribed and it's illustrated, it's like, has a formula, like this cannot change, you know, this, but the combination changed. Because the combination is changed, it's a very refined, but it's a very, it's a boundary in the boundary of the supernatural, you know, like it's not accessible, you know, easily accessible, and it's a very powerful at the same time, you know, because this people has this history. And an interesting thing is, again, humans are the only natural creatures who are given this power to share knowledge outside of themselves and to keep knowledge outside of themselves. We're the only creatures that can put knowledge outside of us, and then without, now at the moment I'm speaking, but by writing I can give it to you, and that knowledge is kept and shared while I'm not around. So humans are the only creatures who can do this. And we, luckily as an Ethiopian, that makes me happy, as our ancestors are one of the very few who are able to evolve to be able to share knowledge outside of themselves and try, you know, able to keep it so we can look at it now. And like to actually, and when you actually see this tangible evidence of like how that evolved into writing, into books, into religion or philosophy or all of that, I think it's very impressive how our ancestors managed to conjure up this whatever, like whether God directly gave them or they found it themselves and searched it, but they managed to put their letters and art forms and everything and try to communicate. They were evolved because they were always trying to communicate, you know, outside of themselves. They, like in art, in literature, whatever it was, in religion, in profound knowledge, and you know, like astronomy, and like to have our own calendar. All this came because the curiosity of these people, and whether you call it myth or legend now, but since it has absolute tangible evidence and what that produced into that to remain to be used now, to transferred. So it's not easy to be undermined.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much, Geta, because you know one of the other points that I have to discuss with you is related to this very, you know, very common artistic practice, be it in modern art, be it in contemporary art, but this Telsem art having a very, you know, profound background to not only us as art as a means of, you know, artistic expression. Beyond that, you know, it's a kind of knowledge system. It's a value that has been, you know, capitalized on very few people, even not even all people in the church, because we know that, you know, even in the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, so people who are making devotional paintings are not exactly the same as people who are making Telsem art, because you know, this Telsem art has its roots, you know, since I'm very glad that you mentioned this point that since Adam, like since the very first human, so the experts have been claiming that this Telsem art has been existing, because this is something that we know the least about Telsem. Of course, it is an art which is feared by many because, like, you know, it includes some form of spirituality and so on. So my point is, in terms of artistic expression, we have this, deep and profound importance of Telsem, but we don't see it as part of our modern except these few exceptional artists like Gideon and Gera. So maybe one of the reasons that we brought this into discussion is also to shed light on Telsem art and its value as an artistic form of expression. So maybe we just say you may say a few words on this, and maybe
because I think that goes to take us to how modern art in Ethiopia had evolved. So traditionally, and as we mentioned it earlier, knowledge is protected by institutions, certain institutions, and especially the church, whether it be it written knowledge or visual knowledge. And in every country it used to be like that, honestly speaking. If you go back to the European culture, if you go back to the time of Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, the patron is the church. There's no individual patrons and sponsors. So if you produce art, if you have a talent or a skill, you work for the church. The church is the one who's got the money and the need to utilize your skill. So they'll give you the job. You produce this magnificent work, and the artist is always able to produce something magnificent, but it's as good as a patron, honestly speaking. And the way the modern art evolved, if you actually see it, when the patrons change, the work changes, wherever it is,
So, sorry to interrupt you, because I see from this analogy also, looking back to how Telsem art, not only Telsem art, but many, artists or artistic practices related to the church and the nobility and the kings, and if that had continued, if that kind of patronship had continued, we might have completely different modern artistic practice. So I think there is this shift in the patronage that really has also impacted how modern art evolved, because we remember
you can see
they went abroad. They went abroad, to learn. If this Telsem art has been inculcated, has been cultivated in its own land, we might have a different modern
Two
artistry.
things. Correct. Even I'm bringing it back to the patronage thing to this the Telsem thing. If it wasn't for Jacques Mercier influencing the producer to produce it this way, we wouldn't have it this way for discussion.
Yes, exactly.
That's a turning point again.
So,
but in general, the Ethiopian modern art kind of movement, when Haile Selassie came back from after the war, and then we sent all these young and talented people in different countries, and they came back with the influence of the countries they went to. And then that critical moment, we thought at the time, people in power, because we lost in the war, even for the occupation.
Even if we resisted.
Yeah, we resisted, but we've been occupied.
Yeah.
And that feeling, that feeling of loss and defeat brought I think especially the air power was because that was the crucial kind of the power shift between the two opponents. They realize that we've been advanced. Knowledge is on the other side, and then knowledge is power. So if we don't know what they know, we're not going to survive. So we should know what they know, So when we shifted to know what they know, we left what we knew, We didn't protect what we knew. So we all accepted whatever was coming from abroad was, this is knowledge, this is practical knowledge, this is going to make you make you know, the needles and the gears, whatever you need, and the automation. So we need to learn that, and ours did not produce us anything.
Yeah.
You know, so that science brought like this our knowledge to be buried and, you know, discarded in a way.
Thank you so
On
much.
this, Gideon said something interesting.
Yeah.
So, like according to him, like in short, from beginning to here, he said, the creation of this power, like God gave this knowledge to humans, is when Adam and Eve was thrown out of the heaven, and then they were thrown out, and then the two brothers, I mean, like out of the whole world, I mean, like it's only one brother. The two brothers had jealousy, and then one had to kill the other. I mean, like, it's shocking, you know. In the whole world, you only have 4 people, you know, according to the story. And then one brother, the only brother he has, he had to kill him. It's just how sad it is, honestly. And because now, according to Gideon, according to the story, I haven't seen it anywhere else, so that's why I have to repeat, you know, the source. According to him, he said, evil, for the second time, and it's such a short time, and was the only 4 people he defeated twice.
Wow.
First time,
He expelled them.
he expelled them, and then now the 2 brothers, he got one to kill the other.
Wow.
So that's, he thinks God realized he need to interfere for humans to protect themselves from evil. So he had to give them knowledge. Yeah? So that is when knowledge is given to humans, and this is a way to protect themselves from evil.
Wow.
So, and then that knowledge between good and evil, the good had to keep this knowledge to protect themselves from evil. And that knowledge through time has been shared and shared and shared, and he thinks it came from all the way from there. And knowledge is that way. And the very interesting thing, he claimed, we had all this knowledge in us, and that knowledge protected us for a very long time, and kept in different books. And the Europeans, before they took some of these books, they didn't know some of these things. And he actually thinks what we know now, that the West knows, is actually taken from us.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean,
This knowledge is taken from us.
yeah,
And the example he gave me is very beautiful ones. And like, so like this pre-industrial revolution, and there's an incident, James Bruce took a book from here. The book does not exist anywhere else. And then Europe was in shock. And then he thinks from that moment on, things shifted, power shifted, because knowledge is
and the
stolen.
period where James Bruce came in Ethiopia and went back is nearly.
He was not there, huh?
It's nearly like, you know, close to maybe, you know, a few decades back, you know,
from the Industrial
Revolution. Yeah.
And this, he doesn't even know this. Again, he actually said this to me. And then, like, for me, just, it's interesting. I'm like, it's good. You can take it as a myth or legend, but it has something. It has something for me. And he said, a metal, he puts a glass of water and he put a coin, a piece of metal, it will sink. Yeah? You throw a piece of metal to the sky, it would fall. You come down. But a huge piece of metal carrying 500 people can fly. And a huge piece of metal carrying 500 people can float. What knowledge does.
Yes.
So it's very interesting the way he described these things to me, you know, at the time. And now, and this was, a knowledge was given to us. Good. Our knowledge has not been utilized in the way it should have been utilized, you know. So he was kind of glad in a way, like at least he can do these things and share it and you know, hang it on the walls. But they're beyond that, like the way he valued them and the way he put what he puts into them. For me, it's like beyond that. You know?
Maybe again, you know, it's not a question, but you know, maybe a reassertion of a point that we have been repeatedly mentioning. So there is this plastic art, or an art with some form of aesthetics, and there is this Telsem. So do you see Telsem different from formal plastic or whatever contemporary or modern artistic practice, or is it something that we consider as its own artistic form, beyond the healing and also the spiritual aspects?
I think beyond the healing, I think you can still see it, as a piece of art for me, because I can, I remember going to a show, very interesting, Gideon's show, and I walked into the show, and at the time, I'm young and I don't have that much money. It was the third piece as I walked into the show, like I just hit me, just spoke to me, I don't know, I can't, I don't know what's about, I don't know, because it's very significant, he's already passed away, I can't ask him.
Wow.
So right after he passed away, that's Allianz, I think 2000, I think 2000, let's say 2000-ish, I think just before 2000, 2000 or 1999, 2000.
Okay.
So I went to a show, the third piece just hit me. And I just stopped and I looked at it and said, I want this painting. How much is it? It's $2,000. So I say I want it. I said, I'll think about it, how I'm going to pay, but because until you think it's going to go. So I just decided, I went to the people, I was like, I put the red mark and I bought it. But because you have a couple of weeks to pay. So I said, I bought it and I had to justify it for myself. I'm buying it for my birthday. Because otherwise, so I bought it and I start thinking about it, I'll pay it after, I'll think about how I'm going to pay it, but I need this thing, whatever it takes. And then I told you this Denis Gerard, his child, his son, which was 7 or 8, before me, a few minutes before, they walked in and the kid said, I want it. Papa, buy this piece. And then the father said, $2,000? No, I'm not gonna buy. It's too much. Let me look around first. So he passed it and he went. And then after they walked one good round to the show, and then the kid said, I told you, Papa, you should buy that one. I said, oh, okay, let's go and see it. And he comes back, it's sold. Yeah. And he was like, what? Who bought it? And then he came and spoke to me. So the point for me is that little kid and me this piece communicated to us in the same way. And I can't explain this, honestly. And then there's ways these things communicate to us. You just, because it's in the same form of abstraction in a way, because I saw it as an abstraction for me. I don't know the meaning of this and that at the time, but as an abstraction piece, it just communicated to me, and it's very powerful. So there's a way of that, this piece is communicate, So in that way, I think it's as a plastic art, as an art, it has power, as well as it's that triple kind of, I don't know, whatever times powerful piece. But for me, as a visual art, it communicated to me, and I made that decision just based on that, feeling and observation, visual, and the graphic power. I mean, when you look at them, it's absolutely impeccable pieces.
Exactly.
Really powerful. I went to art school. They didn't go to art school. It's good. It makes absolute sense, how it's put together, how it's balanced. The graphic elements are really well done. Absolutely well done. The symmetry, asymmetry, the elements, the proportions, everything is in place, in the right place. And on the top of that, just there's a language. For him, there's one point I have to make. He only draws, Gideon especially, he draws only with a pen. Line is very important for him, because only line can, paint is a secondary element that's shaded a little bit, but without breaking a line. So he only works with pencil kind and paint kind of material. So with something that makes a line. He said it should not be done with brush. He would be against, like he would argue with Gera. Gera used brush and paint, but for him, should not be done that way.
Wow. Because
Should be the line is so important. It has to be, line has to be kept. Whatever is done, the lines have to be there. It's very important for him. Yeah. So like when you look at his work, consistently line-based, and even shadings and colors and tints are used by line, not brush. You know, so very little color. You know, but the colors still come out in a very impressive,
it's
amazing way.
Like,
but the line is so important because the line is the main thing that leads the story for him. You know, in his interpretation of the work.